everybody, Baltmatrix here, and today we're going to do something just a little bit different. Now, if you've already seen my video reviews for Megatron and Optimus Prime, you know that I like these figures quite a bit, but I started them off in vehicle mode in those reviews. So today, I'm going to show you how to transform both of these figures into their vehicle modes from robot mode. Now, why am I doing this as opposed to, putting it into the video review? Well, I wanted to do something a little bit different for these guys. Plus, both of these figures have much more difficult transformations than I initially expected. So, I wanted to make a separate video for it. Alright, so we'll just go down the list alphabetically and start with our favorite Decepticon leader. The first thing we're going to do is make sure that the arms are pointing straight down and that the fusion cannon is attached to one of the forearms. Then take the fusion cannon and turn it 180 degrees so that the barrel of the fusion cannon is pointing up along the arm. Then come to the fists and fold them up into the forearms. Turn the figure to the side, grab the backpack, and flip the backpack up and just a little bit over the Decepticon leader's head. And then we can fold out the front treads. And the gray piece that the tips of the treads peg into will then fold in to the sides of the treads, and it has little pegs on the outside, and they will peg in just in front of the wheels for the treads. So just get those pegged in on both sides like that. Now what I like to do here is actually lift the head of Megatron up a little bit, and that will allow us to swing the treads all the way to the front of the robot mode. Come to the back of the shoulders and flip up these little panels that are on the back of the shoulders. Then we can unpeg the shoulders from the rest of the body and rotate them to the back of the robot mode, and then peg the fusion cannon into the other forearm, and just sandwich everything together like so. Once the arms are back there, that forms the turret of the tank mode. Then we could come to the front of what will be the tank mode, up towards the head of the robot mode, straighten out the sections for the treads, and then fold that entire section along these two hinges back underneath the turret. And this is actually a little difficult, so sometimes what I like to do is unpeg the treads and then fold everything back there, and there are these little silver pieces that are pegs on both treads, and they will fit and peg in right where the shoulders pegged in. This is actually the hardest part of the transformation because getting things lined up is a little tricky, but once you do, you have Megatron kind of sticking his head out from where it was, and then you could just keep kind of pushing it back and kind of wiggling back there until you have Megatron just barely peeking out from underneath the tank mode, like so. Next, take the hips and rotate them 180 degrees at the torso articulation. Take the legs, point them straight out in a 180-degree split. Once the legs are split apart, we can then collapse the heels into the bottom of the feet on both sides. Then on the inner thigh or inner lower leg is a panel that will swing out like this. So you end up with these pieces just sticking straight up from the back of the legs. Then fold the lower leg down at the thigh, and then collapse the lower leg up into the thigh, or the lower thigh, or upper thigh, actually the lower thigh and the knee. So that entire section will rotate into the leg, or into the lower leg, and then kind of bend it a little bit, close that panel we opened up before, and then the inside of that panel will peg into place on the hip, like so. And we'll do the same thing again on the other side. Take the lower leg, collapse it at the thigh, then rotate the knee until it's almost closed up, and then using the thigh swivel, rotate the rest of the knee and the upper thigh into the lower leg, and then bend it down a little bit, close the panel, and then fold it up and peg it into place. And here we have the basis of the tank mode. Oh, and the one last thing I like to do is just fold the feet down a little bit, like that. Now, there is articulation in the ankle, so you could fold the feet in like this a little bit if you want, but I don't bother it. That looks dumb. Now, the last bit of the transformation has to do with the Megatron's weapon, and you really don't want to lose this weapon because it's kind of important. So first, move the swivels for the sword so it unpegs from the barrel. Then take the barrel and rotate it 180 degrees back away from the sword. Close the blade up again, peg it in, and then take the entire blade and slide it underneath the turret, and it will slide into place. There's just enough of a gap there if you've got the transformation done correctly. So just slide it in. You do have to wiggle it a bit, and then the barrel will peg right into the turret. And as you can see, I didn't do it right, so things kind of came undone. So just pull it out, close it up, reline it up, and try it again. And eventually, you'll get the tank mode to look exactly right. And there we go. We have successfully transformed Megatron into his tank mode. As I said, it's a lot more complex than I initially thought it was going to be. Alright, let's go ahead and move on to Optimus next. And this is where I get to admit that I completely screwed up and forgot that my microphone's battery was, well, dead at this point. So we're going to grab Prime by the legs, and we're going to start off with folding up the feet and the heels, like so. Then come to the front of the vehicle mode, the front of the knees, and flip out these blue panels, and be careful when you do, because you do have a tendency to pop them off, though they go right back into place. When you do this, it's actually helping us in the long run, because the legs are going to come together, they're going to combine, and doing it now helps. Turn the lower legs around 180 degrees, unpeg the sides of the legs and the back, and then flip them out to the sides, and flip up the gray pieces into the outside blue piece, and they snap right into place. Then we can come inside the legs and flip the wheels out to the outside of what will be the vehicle mode. One thing of warning, if those pieces that are sticking off to the side are not positioned correctly, you're going to run into problems. Then simply combine the legs together. And then those panels we flipped up, we can put flush against what are the back of the robot legs. Next, come to the backpack, unpeg it, and just fold it up. Turn it 180 degrees, and yes, that is on a mushroom peg, so it does, or it can come off. Fold the arms out, then take the entire legs and flip them towards the back of the vehicle mode, or the back of the figure. Now you'll notice that part of the entire crotch area, or back of the crotch, what's effectively his butt, folds up as well. And it just folds up nice into place. You don't have to put a lot of pressure on that spot. It just comes up real easily. Then reach underneath the armpits and pull the tires out. I find that pushing on the bottom of the tire and then getting your finger inside the tire and then pulling away from the body works the best. My ham hands are a little bit big for, grabbing onto those little tiny tires. But it's pretty easy to pull out. I'm appreciative that Hasbro's got all the pins in there correctly, so it's not that bad at all. Once those are out, put them completely underneath the figure, then bring the arms down, push the smokestacks back into place, and then bend the arms at 90 degrees. At this point, I like to fold the arms towards the outside, just as you can see, pointing them to the outside, then reaching underneath the forearms and flipping out the lights. Those lights will be the lights in the vehicle mode at the very bottom of the vehicle mode. And then here, we can just start to shimmy back the shoulders in the classic Prime transformation. Just kind of get them underneath the panel that we have flipped up behind the head. Next, come up to the front windows and push them open on the sides, and that'll open a nice cavern so that we can slide the head right up in there. The head has to be perfectly stationary or static, otherwise it's not going to work. Next, come up to the panel that we flip up all the way. We'll flip it up all the way and open up the panels there inside, and then flip out the bumper. Now, the head that I was talking about, if the antennas are sticking up at an odd angle, you're not going to be able to get the head in that hole. Okay, So, next, fold that front fascia down over Prime's chest and make sure that those windshields are open all the way. And then this is actually kind of difficult because things have a tendency to get in the way, panels have a tendency to get in the way. It's a little weird. Once that top part is down over the head and over the front of the vehicle mode, you can then slide the shoulders back into their resting place and bring the arms forward into their resting place. Then bring the, oh yeah, you got to flip that little panel up that's on the outside of the forearm. Then you can bring the whole front of the vehicle mode down, and then the bottom of the bumper will peg into the light, as you can see what I'm doing here. Once we do that on the side, we can then close the panels and flip up the other panels and close the front windscreen and flip up the tire, and everything snaps into place. Once you've got everything lined up, everything snaps into place very easily. So again, on this side, we'll fold the fist in, fold the fist in, connect the light to the bumper, flip up the tire, flip up the forearm panel, and then close the hiding panel to hide his fists. And then we flip the legs up and close those pieces that have been sticking out this whole time, and they will peg into the thighs of the robot mode. And just peg everything in. Takes a little bit of force. And one thing that I have not been able to figure out is how to close the gap along the top of the vehicle mode. I don't think you can. Also, the lights at the top of the vehicle mode for me are a little bit warped. Just a little bit. It's not terrible, but there's a little bit of warpage going on, and I think that's what's causing the gap there. It's not awful, but just be aware of that for your figure. Now, a quick comparison of the two figures in vehicle mode. Megatron is much bigger, or feels much bigger. He's definitely a lot wider than Prime in vehicle mode. But it must be that just the proportions of the tank feel much, much bigger than Prime does. Now, Megatron only has 4 attach points in vehicle mode, where Prime has 8. Okay, there is an attach point at the very front of the barrel. Yes, you can fit anything with a 3.5 millimeter peg there. So you can pose that tank mode very easily. And the Prime, he's got 2 on the side in vehicle mode, 2 on the other side, 2 on the roof, and 2 on the back by the smokestacks. So you've got 8 different spots where you can plug weapons in, which is cool. And here we're just having some silly fun. I've taken Studio Series Ironhides and powered the Prime's Quake weapons, given them to Megatron, 2 Prime armors, and a couple of weapons for Prime. As you can see, everything works well, everything fits, and it all looks patentedly ridiculous, and I love it. I hope you all have enjoyed watching this. I enjoyed making it. It's something a little bit different. I realize it's a little weird, but I wanted to do something a little bit different for these 2 figures. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this down in the comments. As always, be sure to hit the subscribe, the like buttons, and the bell. I'm Baltmatrix. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.